Alright, we got my first time doing a video like this. Hopefully not my last time doing a video like this. Got some recent games that I just went and picked up the last couple of days. Some retro games. I've been getting into playing a lot of my Super Nintendo. My girlfriend just recently got a Nintendo 64. I recently bought a Dreamcast, and for the past, maybe about a month or so, we've been going to, there's 3 different stores that sell retro games. We've been going to those stores and picking things up, and this isn't going to be a full list of everything that we've picked up recently. It's just going to be something from the past 2 days, because we both, the past couple of days, we've both been out to a couple of those stores. Like I had said, it's good practice to go to those places that you know of that sell antique stores. Just go there quite often if you get the free time, because you never know who's going to bring what in. Turns out the 64 that she bought just got to that store that day, and it actually had the expansion pack in the 64 itself and everything, so it was all ready to go for her. That was a good purchase she made there. So like I said, it's always good to go to those stores as frequent as possible. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show what I've got here from the past couple of days, and I got one item in particular that, well, it could be a factory sealed item. I'm not sure. I'm going to find out once I get into it. I'm actually going to open that here on video. It is sealed, so I don't know if the company did that. I didn't think to ask them. It was a place called Replay, and I didn't think to ask them about it, and I was there today too, and I didn't even think to ask them about it again. But it's sealed, and to me it looks like it's pretty legit. It looks like it could be a factory sealed, but we're going to see, and I'm going to leave that for the end. So obviously we're going to build up to that. So I'm going to go ahead and get into it. The first couple of games I'm going to show here, I'm really not going to go in any particular order, so I'm going to show my first couple of games. First thing I started getting into was Super Nintendo, so I'm going to show 2 of these games I picked up a few weeks ago. One of them I picked up yesterday. So the reason why I'm showing the 2 from a couple weeks ago, you'll know in just a second here. I'm going to go ahead and grab those. And these are the 2 that I picked up about a week or 2 weeks or so ago. I picked up this one first, Donkey Kong Country, and then Donkey Kong Country 2. I picked that one up about a week or so later. Like I said, I've been frequenting the stores as often as possible, and this one I picked up from a different store actually, Donkey Kong 3. So I've got the trilogy of Donkey Kong Country, so we're good to go there. And I'm gonna go ahead and get the next one ready here. I'm going to go ahead and get done with what I have for Super Nintendo. It was just that Donkey Kong Country. The other 2 games, like I said, were from a previous purchase, but I picked this up today. It's a Pelican, so it's not an actual Super Nintendo, or Nintendo brand, rather, but a Pelican. Let's see if we can get that in the middle there, where I believe it's like a slow and a turbo mode, and then normal. So, nice little controller I picked up. I think I paid about $6 for it, so definitely wanted to get another controller. So that does it for Super Nintendo. Donkey Kong Country 3 and this controller. That's pretty much all I got for Super Nintendo the last couple of days. Moving along, my girlfriend, like I said, she picked up a Nintendo 64. And she's into those quirky games, like some of the more different shit that you wouldn't think would be pretty fun until you actually start playing it. And then you find yourself having a lot of fun playing it. So she bought her 64, and the first game she went with was Wheel of Fortune. And like I said, you wouldn't think about it, but we were having some fun playing this. We were actually playing it today. We played, like 3 or 4 rounds of it. And yeah, we were laughing our butts off, having a good time. Then today we went again. We had some more running and errands to do, and we were by those places. So we swung on in, because I knew they had this, because she told me about it. She said she almost bought it yesterday, but she decided not to. But I went and got it for myself. No mercy. Now, this is actually one that I did miss out on as a kid. I had pretty much every wrestling game you could imagine, but I didn't have this one. I do now, and I'm excited to play it. The Donkey Kong Country 1 through 3, them are also games that I didn't have as a child. Played Donkey Kong Country a lot. My cousin had it, so I'm excited to get into that series as well. And that's part of the reason why I'm getting into a lot of the retro stuff. I realized, well, I just said a second ago, I had pretty much every wrestling game. I was a huge wrestling fan, still am. Love the wrestling games, even still. But that was pretty much what I geared myself toward. Anytime I had a Christmas present coming up, birthday present coming up, whatever it was, you get that game, you only maybe get one or two, and you got to choose what you're going to get. And it was always wrestling for me. That was pretty much where it was. So I missed out on a lot of good games, and I'm trying to get back into that right now. I will do a video of my entire Super Nintendo collection because I do, in my opinion, got a pretty impressive collection so far. It's, I think, maybe 30 games at max. So, I mean, it's not a huge collection by any means, but it's some of the great titles, some of the big hitters, in my opinion. And I said that I was pretty much done on the Super Nintendo, and I lied, because I just realized I have 2 more Super Nintendo games, but I'm going to get to those in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Dreamcast, because I just recently got into that as well, so I'm going to get a couple of those games all put in my hand, rather. So, like I said, I'd picked up a few Dreamcast games here. I will make a note that 2 of these games, one of which is considered a homebrew, and the other one, it's not a homebrew or anything by any means, but I ordered these 2 off the internet, so I will mention those 2 when I get to them. I will let you know that those are those games. Dreamcast is a system I did not have as a child. I had a Sega Saturn. I believe when my Sega Saturn, it broke, and when that happened, I either traded it in or just junked it. I can't remember exactly. I was pretty young at the time. Don't remember exactly what we did with it, but I ended up getting a Nintendo 64, and that's where I went from there. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and start with this, because it's really nothing too special, other than the game itself. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Again, it's just a generic case or, whatever. Nothing big. The game plays great, and that's the most important thing there, so I'm happy about that. Same with this, nothing too fancy, no frills, but Ready to Rumble. Ready to Rumble is a great title to have for Dreamcast. It was out on different systems as well, 64, but got it for Dreamcast. I think that's the first time I ever really played it, and then you got the visual memory unit for the Dreamcast. You plug that bad boy in, and it actually gives you some stats. It'll show your stamina, your health remaining, it'll show how many punches you threw, and then it'll show a percentage of your punches landed. So that's a pretty cool little thing to have that little readout right there on your controller. Pretty ahead of its time, in my opinion. Ooh. I'm totally making my setup off balance here. Just give me a second and I will fix I got a lean going on here. Alright, Gangsta Lean has been fixed. Alright, one of the first games that I got from the internet. It is Beat Down Collection. Well, that's actually putting off a pretty good glare there. Let me see if I can get there you go. We got Nintendo, Genesis, Super Nintendo, and MAME. So it's about 96 games, I believe. It's beat 'em ups representing from different genres. It's got Double Dragon from Nintendo. It's got like Double Dragon 1 through 3 from Nintendo. It's got some Double Dragons on MAME, I believe. So some of the games are crossovers, like obviously if they had the game on several different systems, but there's differences, like minor little things here and there. It might sound a little different. So you are getting kind of the same games here and there, but for 96 different beat 'em ups, you can't really go wrong with that. Knights of the Round is on here. The Turtles in Time. The Turtles on the Sega Genesis, I believe, was like the Hyperstone something or other. That's on here. There's Altered Beast. Like I had mentioned, the Double Dragons, Streets of Rage. And then to mention, there are several homebrew. Like there's like Streets of Rage. I don't want to say any of them because I haven't looked at the list recently. But some of the different Streets of Rage types of hacks. I believe one's like a Street Fighter edition Streets of Rage. So that'll be cool to check those out and see what actually those are all about. So again, that was like a homebrew I picked up from the internet. I paid $15 for it, shipped to my door. So couldn't really beat that at all. Thought, cool, why not? So I'm going to do a review video on that and let everybody know how it works and, if it's functional or not. We'll see. Then this I ordered Actually, it was kind of weird. I was looking it up because I knew I wanted to order it, and Walmart. Actually, the website that used Walmart, I actually picked it up through Walmart, basically, through another website, and WWF Attitude. And yeah, maybe not one of the greatest wrestling games, but I loved Warzone as a kid, and this pretty much plays like Warzone. It's just a newer, updated version of Warzone, if you will. More characters. I'm looking at the back right here. It says about 40. Go ahead and show the back here. And yeah, this is actually, I was pretty stoked about it because, go ahead and open it up here and show you. Well, the disc wants to fly out at me. That's always weird. Anyways, complete, everything was there. The case has a little bit of bumps and bruises on it, a little bit of scratching, some smudges from what looks like was old price tag stickers, and I don't know if you can see up in the corner here. It's kind of hard to tell. It looks like maybe someone took a bite out of the corner or something. I don't know. But anyways, manual feels great. Feels like brand new. There's these little like warranty type inserts or whatever. So I mean, it's as if whoever got this game never even pulled the manual out and bothered to look at it, and they just played the game. And I mean, in all honesty, it don't even look like they played the game very much. Again, it's not one of the better wrestling titles, so maybe they got it and was like, "Oh, this is garbage," and took it back or whatever they did with it, or just left it sit in a pile at their house and never touched it. Because I mean, there was games like that I had that you pick up and you get burnt with it because it's not actually a good game, and you just kind of let it sit because you're like, "Oh, what do I do?" All right, next, I was pretty excited about this one. Again, not having a Dreamcast, so this is all new to me. This game in particular, that is. Tony Hawk, I played on other systems. Attitude, I played on another system. Ready to Rumble, I played on another system. So they're not new to me, per se, but this one is Sega Rally Championship. Oh, Sega Rally 2 Sega Rally Championship, I believe. Yeah, Sega Rally 2 Sega Rally Championship. That's how the title's printed, so that's how I'm going to say it. Great game, though. I mean, it's got some interesting physics in it. Like, I mean, obviously you're using a controller, and you start breaking it loose a little bit, then you can just kind of let off your steering, and it just hangs out for a minute before it starts coming back. I mean, it's pretty fun. I've actually was playing it for maybe about an hour or so just last night, just messing around a little bit. And, yeah, I might do a review video on this, too, just because it's fun. Definitely a lot of fun. And again, just to note, this one came complete with manuals in there, pretty good. I do like that about these games like that, the Dreamcast and stuff. They have those little tabs right on the end here to kind of hold the manual in when you get it slid in, so it's not slopping all around, and it keeps it edges looking nice. I mean, this is. This old game, late 90s, early 2000s, and manual still looks pretty good. So again, this could be a case of, someone got it and looked at the manual once or twice, because, I'm guilty of that as well, especially as a kid. As a kid, you're not looking at no manual. You're throwing that game in and you're getting started. The only time you're looking at the manual is after you get started and you think, okay, well, how do I do that now? What button do I hit for this? Well, how do I do turbo mode? Then you got to pop that manual out and take a peek. And again, like I said, I appreciate how it's a pain in the butt to get them in and out of there because it keeps them protected. But at the same time, I only appreciate that when I have a good-looking manual. I don't appreciate it when I try to put it back in because it fights you. And then last on the Sega Dreamcast, certainly not least in most people's opinion, I played this more in arcades than I did on any kind of home port. And as far as I know, it might have been PlayStation 1 had it as well. But Crazy Taxi. Had to pick up Crazy Taxi. I was thinking about when I got my Dreamcast. This is before my girlfriend got the 64. And I was thinking about her. What game could I get that she would really enjoy too? And I figured, man, the mayhem that is induced in Crazy Taxi. Because I, like I said, played it in the arcades and it's a lot of fun. Now we're going to get to what I consider to be my top 2 of the past couple days, and pretty much top 2 out of what I've been looking for Super Nintendo for a while. Well, one of them, to be honest with you, I've always kind of wanted to have back in my collection again. There's multiple versions of that. You'll know in a second when I get to it, but there's multiple versions of it. I really wasn't particular on which one I wanted. But this other one I knew was one I wanted to play, missed out on as a child, and really, really wanted to get it, and knew it was kind of coveted and, you know, a little bit more on the higher price side. But I actually didn't spend much on it at all, in my opinion, from what I've seen on the internet. And I got it in box. Not complete in box, I should say. I know a lot of people will debate complete in box means even with like the warranty type inserts and all that kind of stuff. To me, I'm happy if the manual's in there, the insert, the game, even like the dust cover, all that kind of stuff. This one is missing the manual, which isn't a big deal, and I think that's probably why the price wasn't quite as high as I've seen. But we got Mega Man X. And I actually walked down the aisle at the store that this was at. Just walked down the aisle, and just tucked behind this was something that I missed out on at the previous store that I bought the first two Donkey Kong Countries at. So it was kind of like Mega Man was sitting here, kind of like this, at an angle. Now, where you're at looking at me would be me walking by, and this bad boy was sitting behind it. And those two things caught my eye. And I just kind of looked at my girlfriend, and I just laughed and said, "You're probably going to hate me." And she goes, "What?" And I said, "Well, two of those games I really want are right there." Then I stepped about 10, maybe even 8 feet, maybe less than that, not even, just down the way, and that's where this was, one that I had been looking at to want to get for myself to want to play Sega Rally Championship. So those were actually all three at the same store and all picked up right at the same time. And like I said, I told her, "You're probably going to hate me because I have to get these." Which, luckily, she's still here. She doesn't hate me. She actually bought herself a 64, so quite the opposite. Instead of hating me, she decided to one-up me because she knew I was looking at 64s as well. I'm just looking into getting into some of the retro stuff. I like collecting it, especially if it's stuff that I played as a kid. You get the nostalgia feeling. If it's a system I had as a kid and like games I heard about, like right now I've been playing a lot of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. Never played it. Heard a lot about it. Heard some friends talk about it, and now as I'm playing it, I'm starting to like understand some of the things they were talking about growing up, you know, talking about that game all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Well, I was playing Royal Rumble the other night, and I won the Royal Rumble 4 times in a row, you know, like, they didn't care about that, and I didn't care about what they were talking about. But now I'm going to go ahead and unveil what I think is factory sealed. We're going to find out. We're going to find out together, and one way that I know we're going to be able to find out is just by looking at it, obviously, but there's a little thing here on the front, and I'm going to show you, and that is Street Fighter. Street Fighter, the new challengers, so Super Street Fighter 2. Yeah, like I said, there are so many variants of it. I really don't know what exactly you'd call this one, except for just the new challengers is what I've seen it called a lot. Again, like you can see here, there's cellophane on that bad boy, and I don't know. To me, that looks, I mean, I was young for Super Nintendo, but I do remember getting new games, and to me, that looks like a legit, you know, seal from a factory, you know, where, you know, especially like this is Capcom, so I've had a lot of Capcom games myself. So, honestly, we're going to find out here. I'm going to go ahead and tear this bad boy open right here, right now. We're going to see what's inside. See if it's actually, this was actually factory sealed. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh my god, well don't do that if it's factory sealed, but I'm keeping all the contents here. I'm not going to separate anything. It's all going to be back in this box, and it's going to be well protected, so, I mean, it's definitely not, and I want to play the game, so, I mean, there's always that too. So let's get her open and let's see. There's only one way to find out. Alright. Yep. Let's see. Yeah, there's no manual. So what that is it's probably something they just resealed somewhere at some point. Because one of the reasons I also had said is right there, it says something about an exclusive offer for a 6-button controller that you can send away for Street Fighter, and that's not in here. The manual's not in here. The price was $25, so having the box with the insert and the cartridge looks great. So that's more than worth the price, definitely. If it was factory sealed, original from the factory from the 90s, I could imagine that bad boy be sitting at around $100. Like maybe a little lower. Maybe I'm kind of off on the price point, but I mean, look, that's a nice looking label. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and look at it myself here because I'm looking at it on the camera. I mean, yes, that looks really good. Contacts look nice and cleaned. I mean, it's definitely a nice looking cart. I'm more than happy with it because I've got the box, I've got the insert, you know, I can get the manual, like with the Mega Man, I can get the manual, I can get that stuff to complete it. I don't need the insert for the 6-button controller, I don't need all the other little extra things that kind of came with these. Like I said, that's not as important to me, but having boxed versions that still had survived, because that's, in my opinion, this is an original box. I don't see anywhere, and I've scoured over it a few times, I don't see anywhere on it that it says it's reproduction, and it's got Nintendo's little seal on it, and so you'd have to be pretty bold to go ahead and slap that bad boy on. I've seen it put on different carts that they try to pass off, but it's always blurred, or you know what I mean, there's always just a way where it just doesn't look as clear and as perfect as that Nintendo badge there. So yeah, as far as I can tell, this is an original box, everything there, the original insert, so the cartridge looks great, so that's awesome. And I'm going to get the manual for it to complete that, and so that also might make a lot of people feel a little better about me cracking the bad boy out of the seal, and that it wasn't from factory. Although, I will say, I probably would have done a cartwheel or something, because that would have been kind of cool, just a cool little find. Not that it would have been like, you know, a gold mine or anything by any means, but for me, just getting into collecting, having 2 awesome box version games, I like it. That's badass. That's what it's about. And I know where there's an F-Zero in box. I know where that's at, and I believe it's $30 or something like that, which I don't think is a unfair price at all. Again, that could just be boxed with insert and cartridge. It might not have manual. I know where there's a Beavis and Butthead in box for Super Nintendo, and that is $20, and those are at the same store. So there are more box versions out there that I have seen, and I know where they're at, and I got my eye on them. And like I said, I frequent these stores as often as I can whenever I got a little bit of extra money, because again, I don't like to be that customer that just walks in, walks around for a little bit and goes, oh, I didn't find nothing. I mean, it happens, but I do always see stuff that next time I come here, I'll pick that up if I don't find anything else. So there's always something. I mean, usually they got their good games in a case somewhere, you know, locked up where you gotta, you know, hey, let me see that one. But for the most part, they got a lot of their other games sitting out. And there's a lot of good games in those piles, things that you played as a kid. You'll see some of those that you might not pick up that day because you're picking up, you know, one of these more expensive ones. Them are the ones that when you go there and look around, don't see anything, turn around, pick up one of those $6, $7 games. That way you patronize the store, keep them in business, keep them going, because honestly, I don't know how they do it. I haven't really worked at any of these like vintage little video game trade places, you know, buy, sell, trade places. I don't know how they do so well with their business, but they do. I mean, this one guy over in this Perrysburg, it's called Flotsam. I think he's been there for 3 years now or something like that. And as far as I've been going for maybe a little over a month now, I've seen a lot of different product in and out. Just, you know, different things. And he's said to a buddy of mine that goes there that he's got things in the back that he's just waiting to have room on the shelves because he's not got a very big store. So I do like the fact that these places are thriving somewhat decently, and I do try to patronize them as often as I can and pick things up. I have traded some things into that Flotsam. I traded in a Sega Genesis 2 and a Nintendo, and he was really fair. I got $50 both times. I had some games and some controllers with both units, and both times he was like, I can give you $50 in-store credit. Awesome. I ended up spending more money, so I ended up actually spending money there, and he got those things to sell himself, so he's going to make a little bit of money, and that's cool. I'm happy with that. So I've got other things here. I've got like a PSP. I got a Game Boy Advanced. I've got some games for those, obviously. Things that I don't mind parting with now that I could get in the future again, like back in the day when I parted with my Super Nintendo to upgrade to, I believe it was the Sega Saturn. So that's just kind of how you do it. So for right now, I think that's going to do it with this video. I've pretty much covered what I've gotten in the past couple of days. Like I said, some of these things are more for me, like the No Mercy. Now, I know wrestling fans all over, and you know what, people that aren't wrestling fans that might have played this with some buddies that were wrestling fans, they will say, okay, yeah, that's a badass game. But it still may not be like, you know, a definitive, oh my god, if you got a 64, you have to get this game. So some of them, like I said, they're for me, but a lot of these pickups are ones that are really pretty popular, and some that I've got to get into and play for the first time. Played about 10 or so minutes of that, and didn't think I'd get into it as much as I did. I've always seen this game, and I always thought, oh, you know, that ain't for me. But again, I was a huge wrestling fan, so this just didn't spark it for me. But now, you know, like I said, played a little bit of it, and I was having a blast. So next video I'm going to do, it's going to cover my Super Nintendo collection. And I'm going to grow my Dreamcast collection. Now, Dreamcast, obviously, it's going to be kind of hard to grow that collection. Like I said, I've been to a lot of these stores the past few days, and I've only picked up a few Dreamcast games. Two of them I ordered off the internet, one of which isn't even really technically a Dreamcast game. It's a collection of other beat-em-ups from previous consoles before the Dreamcast. So, still awesome. Still happy about it. I'm going to grow this collection so I can do a video of that, hopefully. But I will do some review videos of some of the Dreamcast games, just because I think they're pretty fun. I'll do some review videos of some other games. I've got a video up on my channel right now of me doing a live stream playing Double Dragon. It's Return of Double Dragon for Super Nintendo. It is Super Double Dragon, but it's the Japanese version, but it's in English because it's done by Retroism, so it was actually 2018 is when they started making that. Yes, I'd have to do some more research. You have to forgive me for that, but I believe it was 2018, around August-ish or so when it released. I picked mine up just at the beginning of 2019, and it was $25. I looked about a week or so later, and it had doubled in price, so I must have got in right at the very end of it. I must have just got lucked out on that. What they did with the Super Double Dragon in Japan is they took and added some more to the last couple levels. They added a pretty lengthy chunk onto the last level. They added some more animations, some more moves you can do. For instance, when you're hitting a guy, you hit him like 3 or 4 times. Fourth hit or so usually sends them flying. They go flying off into the air. That big shot that you land, they can now duck it, and they can land a counter shot. So that's pretty cool, and it makes it a little bit harder, a little bit more of a challenge. So I've got that on my channel, a live stream of that. So most of my live streams and everything previous of that have been like PlayStation 4 or me doing some RC car reviews and runs of those. So I'm going to continue doing those type of videos. Summertime's coming, so I'm going to do a lot of RC stuff, but I'm going to try to squeeze in some Dreamcast reviews, some Super Nintendo stuff. I'm going to try to do some more playthroughs. I'll probably do a Mega Man X playthrough for Super Nintendo. That'll probably take forever because I've heard this is a pretty long game. I started doing Legend of Zelda just for myself, but I've made it decently far, about more than halfway through the game. So I'm probably going to start a new game and do a live stream of that. So there'll be more videos to come. The next one I'm going to be working on, and it's going to take me a little bit just to kind of get how I'm going to do it all, because like I said, I got about 30 Super Nintendo games. Like I said, not a huge collection, but I do want to cover why some of these are in my collection, because some of the games actually survived from when I originally had a Super Nintendo, so that's kind of cool to show those off. So that'll be the next video. So until then, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this bad boy up by saying visit your local retro video game stores frequent, because you never know what kind of gems you're going to find. You might get lucky. You might find some great boxed version games, and if the price ain't too bad, pick them up. Like I said, this was $25. And this I paid $55 for. Didn't come with a manual, so maybe that was a little bit high without a manual, but without really looking into it at the time, and I probably could have had them open it up for me. Then again, I was more excited just to get the game. I know I can pick up a manual. I'm not sure if I'm going to go reproduction manual route or if I'm going to try to find an original. I've already seen some originals on like eBay, and they're about like $20 or so. So I'm like, well, dang. So what I'm thinking is, this was probably a $70 or so game, I would imagine, if it was complete with manual. So it does have the dust cover, so that's kind of cool. I do like that. So next video is going to be the Super Nintendo. So until then, see you later.